Maybe you don't feel appreciated. So I always tell you this every week. You look so good. You look amazing. Look at your faces. Beautiful. Look at someone next to you. Tell them, amazing. Look at someone else. Tell them, good job. Well, around this time of the year, it's a very exciting time because the holidays are coming up. We're going to be busy, family gatherings, Christmas shopping, Christmas parties here and there. Some of you are excited. Maybe you're going home to the Philippines to meet your family. Exciting time of the year. But for me, the reason why I'm so excited around this time is because we have a tradition in our church that we enter a season where we're going to trust God in the next coming year. We're going to enter a season where we're going to put our faith to work. And how we do this is that we sow a seed. We sow a seed into this next year. And how we do this is we give sacrificially. We give above and beyond what is required, believing in God and putting our trust in Him. This is what we do. We put our trust in Him in this coming year. But not only that, we're thankful to Him for everything He's done in this year. Remember what I told you last year? This year is a year of the Lord's favor in your life. Have you experienced it? Have you experienced it? This year was a year of the Lord's favor. So to thank God for everything that He's done in this year, we're going to give back unto Him. Give back unto Him in acknowledgement that without Him, all of this is not possible. Without Him, I would not have experienced this. Without His favor, I would not be here. So we will give back unto Him as a reflection of our thankfulness to Him. So that's what we're going to do at the end of the year. This is our tradition in the church. We've been doing it for a few years. We're going to give back. We're going to give in trust to Him in this coming year. We're also giving in thankfulness in what He's done in this year. So church, I want you to participate in this. Participate in this. This one-time special offering that we're going to give to God. Remember last year when I talked about favor? We gave during that year, but we had not experienced favor. But because of our faiths, we gave into faiths, we have experienced favor that comes from God. Okay. Not only that, not only are we giving out of thankfulness, out of trust, but we're also giving in the purposes of building His kingdom. Our sacrificial offering is for the furtherance of God's kingdom. So, we've been doing this for a few years, and I just want to be transparent in what happens. So we gave in 2019, I won't go too back. We gave in 2019, and this is how much we collected. We collected $37,087.80. That's how much we collected in 2019. And if you don't know, this was the year we first came into this building. So all of those proceeds was into renovating this building. We did a lot of renovation. So most of the things that you see here is because of your giving. The washrooms, the walls, the floors, it's because of your giving. And people today are now benefiting that sacrifice that you gave long time ago. So that was building the kingdom then. In 2020, when the pandemic happened, we did it again. And again, I asked God, why do you want us to give during a pandemic? God said, allow them to give them an opportunity to give. So we gave again in 2020, and this is how much we collected. $21,242.50. Now, it may be a decrease, but remember, during a pandemic, you didn't have any work, you didn't have any jobs, and still paying your rent, still paying mortgage, yet we still gave out in faith. You build God's kingdom. Can I tell you something here? All of the proceeds here was into missions. Food bank. Who here has been blessed with the food bank? This is a result of the giving in 2020. Can I tell you something, church? Our food bank has served 315 families in our community. Not including you. Not including you. 315 families in our community. And not only that, the food bank was also a way for people to come to know God. Many souls have been saved, many families have been saved because of the food bank. It is through your giving that you build God's kingdom. Not only that, it was to mission. So we also sponsor 50 kids in Costa Rica, giving them school supplies, giving them food, giving them a little bit of pocket change. That is through your giving. You're building God's kingdom. So last year we gave again, 2021, and this is how much we collected: $38,051. Now, the reason and the purposes for us giving this was to tear down this building, and we're going to build a new one in Christ's name, in Jesus' name. I'm going to continue to say this until it happens. We're going to tear down this building, and we're going to build up a new building in His name. That's what our giving was back then. And can I tell you something about this building? If you don't know the history of it, this building was built in 1942, 35, 38. Not old. 1938, 42, whatever it is. And this building was built because it was during the war, and this building, they made ammunition for the war. So since 1942, this building has stayed the same. The foundations, what you see here, most of it has stayed the same. Each owner did not change anything in this building. They were just patching up here and there. But since 1942, it's been the same building. I think it's about time that we build a new one for God. I think it's about time. My mom's dreams was that our church would have a Praise Christian Academy, that you could bring your kids here to learn in school. My mom's dream is that we have gym facilities here that also our community can use, so we could reach out to our community. Gym facilities here. My mom's dream is to open a care home over there for our elderly, that they could just go down and church is right there. My mom's dreams is that the church becomes something important in the community, like going to a bank or going to a grocery store. That's her dream. So then, let's build it. Let's build it. Let's build it then. Let's build it. You think we can build it? Well, let's build it then. Let's not just talk about it, let's build it. See, my dream is that Jesus' name rests upon our city. So then, let's build it. Look at our church. It's great, it's amazing, but the outside sometimes doesn't look so amazing. And of course, I really want to reflect God's glory here in this community, in this city. So let's build it, let's build it. And next year, 2023, we're really going to focus on the next steps on how to demolish the building and build a new one. We're really going to focus on it. I'm going to build a team. I'm going to talk to a lot of people. That's our focus in this coming year. Let's get the ball moving in building a new building. So this year again, I'm going to ask you, we're going to give towards this. We're going to give in building a new building once again. And the money that's here, we haven't touched it, we haven't used it, it's still in the bank. So everything that you're gonna give will be for building this building. And our giving in this year will be in December 18th. Okay, December 18th. Turn to someone next to you, tell them December 18th. December 18th. I gave you a few weeks to save up. It's before Christmas. So I'm giving you a few time. And I just want to remind you, our church has always been a giving church. Everything that you see here is because the people has gave. And this is the DNA of our church. We give, and we give. And so to build our faith, to give at the end of the year, we usually go into a series. And the series that we went to in 2019, we went into a series to build our faith called Within Reach. Within Reach, it's on the side there, Within Reach. And the reason why we talked about within reach is we believe that everything God has for us is within our reach. In 2020, when the pandemic happened, we had a series called But God. You thought it was impossible, but God. But God changed it, but God stepped in. Last year, we had a series, year-end series, and it was called Favor. And we believe 2022 will be a year of the Lord's favor in your life. Now for this year, our year-end series, it's called Wonder. Wonder. Turn to someone next to you, tell them, wow. Wonder. Now the reason why we're going into this series called Wonder is because, again, 2022 was a year of the Lord's favor. And because it was a year of the Lord's favor, I heard so many testimonies of God's favor in your life. Many of you have received down payments for a home that you didn't even pay for. God's favor. I heard so many testimonies that you got promoted at work at a higher paying job, a higher paying position. Many of you are in your dream jobs. You've graduated and now you're in the field that you studied. God's favor in your life. For me and Cheng, it's really been a year of the Lord's favor in our life. This year, we got pregnant. I'm gonna keep repeating this. I don't know if you're tired of it, but for 3 years, we've been trying. 3 years, every year since 2019, we've been giving to God. God, this year, let it be a baby. Didn't happen. God, this year again, 2020, let it be a baby. Didn't happen. 2021, this year, give us a baby. And this year, we received a baby. We're pregnant, the year of the Lord's favor. We got disappointed for how many times? At times, Cheng would not take a pregnancy test because she didn't want to cry to me. But it was a year of the Lord's favor. Not only that, God has kept our baby safe. When there was a point where we thought we would lose our baby girl, we were getting ready to just say bye to her. The Lord's favor was upon us, kept our baby safe. It was a wrong diagnosis. The year of the Lord's favor. So I heard so many testimonies. Many testimonies. But there's one thing in common with all these testimonies. They're all different, but there's one thing in common. They would always say this: I don't know how. I don't know how this was possible. I don't know how it came to be, but it happened. And they would say, I wondered how. I wondered why. I wonder how. And when they couldn't explain how, they said who? They said God. It was God. And that's what I want you to understand with wonder. At times, you may not know how, but the only explanation is who. Our God is a mysterious God. He works in mysterious ways. So next year, I pray for this. God will keep you in wonder. For us to understand or grasp this series, I'm going to take it from Luke chapter 5, verse 18 to 26. A little bit long, but it's good and helps us grasp what this series is about. It says this: some men came carrying a paralyzed man on a sleeping mat. They tried to take him inside to Jesus, but they couldn't reach him because of the crowd. So they went to the roof and took up some tiles. Then they lowered the sick man on his mat down into the crowd right in front of Jesus. Seeing their faith, Jesus said to the man, again, seeing their faith. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put our faith into action by giving. Again, seeing their faith, Jesus said to the man, young man, your sins are forgiven. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law said to themselves, who does he think he is? That's blasphemy. Only God can forgive sins. Jesus knew what they were thinking, so he asked them, why do you question this in your hearts? Is it easier to say your sins are forgiven or stand up and walk? So I will prove to you that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. Then Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and said, stand up, pick up your mat, and go home. And immediately, as everyone watched, the man jumped up, picked up his mat, and went home praising God. Verse 26, this is what I want you to see. Everyone was gripped with great wonder and awe, and they praised God, exclaiming, "We have seen amazing things today." That's my hope in this coming year. That as you walk in 2023, you will say, "I have seen amazing things today." Today. As you walk in this next year, you will see amazing things today, and you will be kept in awe and in wonder. So this week is our opening series for our series Wonder. So I'm going to set it up. We're going to go into a few weeks of this. I'm going to set it up and what we're going to learn about in this series. And so for this first week, this is where God brought me. Matthew chapter 18, verse 1 to 4. It says this. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a little child to him. All the teachers are excited now because I'm talking about kids. He brought a little child to him, and he placed the child among them, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes a lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." So for our first week of Wonder, this is what I want to talk to you about. Not about that. Not about that. Turn to someone next to you, tell them, that's not it. That's not it. Not about that. Now next year, I think we're always questioning this. What's next? What's next in this coming year? What's going to happen in this coming year? I think this is a question we always ask ourselves when we're entering something new. What's next? What's going to happen? For the students out here, you're entering a new semester, so you ask this question, what's next? What classes do I need to take? What are the professors like? What are the materials like? What do I need to learn? What are the expectations? If you move to a different location, a different place, you ask this question, what's next? What do I have to look after? What do I need to buy? What do I need to learn about the city, about the community? If you're here, new to Canada, you ask this question, what's next? What jobs can I take? What opportunities do I have? What's the culture like here? What's the city like? What's this thing falling down from the sky called snow? What's next? For me, I love knowing what's next because it gets me prepared. So again, me and Chang, we're pregnant. What comes next is the baby comes out. That's what's next. What's next is from pregnancy to baby is out. Now, a lot of people's been telling me this about what's next. When your baby comes out, your life is going to me. I don't know why. They're going to tell me the baby cries every 3 hours. But they don't really tell me this. Because I know what's next is that I have to clean up the poop of the baby. I have to take out their diapers. I have to get my hand in there, wipe their butts. And I imagine this, they don't eat solid food, right? So their poo's not solid, right? So it's really, interesting down there. I have to wipe. No one tells me that. They don't tell me too that maybe after 2 minutes, they go again. So I don't even have a break. I have to take it out. I gotta wipe it again. Nasty. They tell me this. When your child has sipon, when they have a runny nose, you have to sip the sipon out of their nose. You have to suck the mucus out of their nose with your mouth. With my mouth. No one told me this. And recently I've been on Instagram. I've been seeing all these baby things. And what I see is that the parents are playing with the child, tossing him up, and the child throws up on their face. It goes into their mouth. They don't show me this. I would see on Instagram, like the kids would take the food, they wipe it on themselves, they wipe it on the floor, wipe it everywhere. Nasty. No one told me this. They always tell me it's great having a child. I heard that. You're going to have sleepless nights. I heard that. But no one told me how nasty it is to raise a child. You do all the dirty stuff, the weird things. My sister, when she was teaching, I don't want to expose this. When she was teaching Caden how to potty train, she stripped Caden naked, and Caden was just naked, just peeing around the whole house. I can't even imagine that. It's nasty. So Cheng, I don't know about you, but I'm not about that. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe when it's here, when the baby's here, and maybe I'll get used to it. But right now, I'm not about that. And I don't know for you, Cheng, I don't know how you're going to handle that, because when you clean King's pee, you start throwing up, right? You start gagging. So I don't know with our baby, but hopefully, baby girl, you'll be really easy. You'll be really clean. How many of you, when you understand what's next, you're going to say, I'm not about that? If you've seen on the news lately, they've been talking about this. Oh no, rumors of war happening, rumors of airplanes. I'm not about that, because the economy is already as bad as it is. What if they say, they've been talking about this lately, restrictions. We should put back restrictions. What if in 2023, we're back in lockdown? Would you want that? Many of us are not about to do that again. Snow came down. Many of you are so happy. Some of you are happy. You know, you're having a great time making snow angels. And I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you. But for me, as soon as I seen the snow fall down, my heart sank. It's here. There's no turning back, and it's only going to get worse. And for the people who love snow, just wait. Just wait. Wait till the snow starts turning into a different color, starts getting mushy, and then you have to put your feet in it and it gets into your shoes. Just wait. Some of us, we're not about that. It's even funny, just right now, it's just -3. Some of you are already done. You're already booking a plane to the Philippines. Not about the cold weather. We're not about that. And I love this one. Don't you love this one? That after Sunday, Monday's back, work again. Work na naman. Wake up at 5 a.m. Then after the whole week, you have to deal with your work, deal with all those people, deal with all the mess for a whole week. Are you ready for that? Many of you are not about that. See, for the disciples, they were asking this question because they were asking, what's next? What's next? See, in verse 1, it says this. The disciples came to Jesus and asked, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? They were questioning what's next. And this question, who then is the greatest, it was a frequent discussion with the disciples. They were arguing over and over about this. We see it in multiple accounts in the gospel in different times. Mark, a different account of this, Mark 9:33 to 34, it says, after they arrived at Capernaum, they settled in a house. Jesus asked his disciples, what were you discussing out on the road? But they didn't answer because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. Again, in Luke 9:46, it says, then the disciples began arguing about which of them was the greatest. The reason why they're arguing with each other is because of what was next. Jesus was doing his ministry for quite a long time now. So the disciples seeing Jesus work, they seen all the miracles, they seen his works, and they're thinking to themselves, this guy named Jesus, I think he's the Messiah. Like, he's the Messiah. Even Peter said in chapter 16, you are the Messiah. Everyone say Messiah. So they thought Jesus is the Messiah. But the Messiah in their minds was a different understanding. See, the Israelites were waiting for this promised Messiah, this promised king to deliver them and to set up his kingdom. But the kingdom that they thought was like an earthly kingdom. like the kingdoms of the world back then, like with the monarchs, with the offices, with the ranks, with the prestige. That's the kingdom the disciples thought Jesus is setting up. So, but of course, now they're arguing, which of us is going to have the highest rank in this kingdom that Jesus is setting up? And they're saying to themselves, I'm not about to be the lowest. I'm not going to be the lowest here. And I could just imagine they're arguing. I'm not about to be the lowest. I fed 500 people. 500 people. I gave 500 fish, 500 loaves of bread. What did you do? And another disciple will be like, I gave 1,000. I gave 1,000 fish, 1,000 bread. I did this and that. I casted out demons. And then we have Peter coming saying, I walked on water. Did you walk on water? You stayed in the boat. So I should be the highest one. And so they're one-upping each other, one-upping each other. This is how I imagine it to be. They're just arguing amongst each other because they're not about to be the lowest. And here we have in the Matthew account, they couldn't come up with a solution because they kept one-upping each other. That's what I'm thinking. They kept arguing. So they asked Jesus this, again in verse 1. Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? See, their problem with what was next was that they were looking for a certain position. They wanted a high position. Their problem was a position. Disciples saying, who is going to have the greatest rank? What position will I be in what's next? I think this is what we're asking ourselves too. Next year, where will I be? What position will I find myself? And of course, many of us want a higher position, amen? We want a higher position. That's what you pray about. You pray for a higher position. You ask for a higher position. You desire for a higher position. You know, to come to a point where you're financially free. We're not living paycheck to paycheck. Or a higher position in your health, in your mental health, in your spiritual health, in your emotional health. We stress so much about position. And the position we would like to find ourselves is in a better position and then where we're at. We don't want to find ourselves in a worse position from where we're at. You don't want to have 1,000 going then to 100. You don't want that. You want a better situation, a better position. And this is where I find ourselves today. When we look at our positions today, because of the events that happened, because of the circumstance that suddenly came up, we find ourselves in a more difficult and challenging position. For some of you, you are just barely scratching by, barely paying off the rent, barely having enough for groceries. You could just barely go to somewhere without breaking down once. You can barely keep your patience, barely stay happy. And the reason why you could just barely scratch by is because of your position. I talk a lot about this, is that we work really hard. Some of you work really hard to be at a better position. And again, that's all you pray about. The position I'm at, the position I don't have. Where will I be in what's next? That's what the disciples were asking. What position will I be at? What will I receive? Have you asked this to God lately? Where will I be? What position? Is it going to come true? And the reason why they're asking this was because of their ambition. A lot of positions connects to your ambition, your focus. They were focused on themselves. They're focused on their wants. They're focused on their desires. They were focused on their will being done. So in verse 2 to 3, this is how Jesus responds, okay? I love how he responds. He says this, he called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So the disciples were so caught up in a position, where will I be? Where will I be? Where will I be? Look what Jesus does. He brings a little child. He placed the child there, and he says, unless you change and become like little children. What does this mean? What does it mean when Jesus says, unless you change? What is the change that Jesus is asking here? Remember, the disciples, their idea of the kingdom was an earthly one. It's because of what they've already seen, what they've already experienced. In fact, the disciples already had set expectations on what Jesus was going to do. They thought Jesus was going to set up an earthly kingdom because of their past experiences and because of their understanding. Right? They're thinking, David set up an earthly kingdom. It was amazing. It was a great kingdom. Then Solomon furthered that kingdom. It was the greatest kingdom in the world. So Jesus will also set up a kingdom, the same one like that. They had set expectations on what God was going to do. So what they did was that they put what God was going to do in a box, and they hope for that box. I think this is us today. We have set expectations because of our past experiences. You would say, God moved like this back then, and that's how you expect God to move today. You would say, you understood God like this back then, so you understood Him like this today. We set expectations based on our past experiences. But I love what Jesus says here. And we're going to read this in the Message translation, verse 3. He says this, I'm telling you once and for all that unless you return to square one and start over like little children. Jesus is saying, the kingdom you expect is not the kingdom I built. And the reason why you can't enter the kingdom is because the kingdom you're striving for, the kingdom you're hoping for, your idea of the kingdom is not the kingdom I've built. So unless you change what you expect, unless you change what you strive for, you can't enter because it's two different kingdoms. You need to start over in how you see the kingdom. He's saying this, your expectations need to start off at square one. Your expectations need to start off at square one. I think the reason why we miss what God has for us is because we already have a set expectation of what He's going to do. And a lot of these set expectations is on your past. What you've experienced back then, what you've understood back then, what you have received back then. But the Bible says this, see, I am doing a new thing, a new thing. But the only way to see that God is doing a new thing is not to limit God based on your own understanding. I think the reason why you don't ask for more is because of your limited experience on God's life, on God in your life. I think the reason why you avoid the impossible because you think it's impossible. I think the reason why you judge a circumstance at its start is because how that same circumstance ended. The reason why Jesus said, become like little children, is because kids don't know anything. They don't know anything. They don't know life yet. They weren't thrown out into the deep end. They haven't experienced anything yet. Kids don't know anything. Don't you notice this? Your children are always in wonder. Everything that they see, wow, amazing. I saw on Facebook that you brought some of your kids to these light shows for Christmas. And I seen the kids, they're so in wonder, they're so in awe. Then we see you. You wonder why you're even there. But your kids are just in so awe and amazement. Like, even for Caden, they just wow at everything. As a joke for Caden in Christmas, I gave him a banana. You know what he said to me? Uncle Mark, this is the best thing ever. Banana, a banana. Banana. Like, you could give kids anything and they say wow at it. wow, snow, wow, us, no. Like I brought one time, you bring them to a jungle gym, amazing, amazing. One time I brought Caden to the jungle gym in our place with me and Chang. And you know what Caden said to us? Wow, this is the best thing in my life. I don't think my sister ever took him out. Wow, and everything. He was having the greatest time while me and Cheng, we wanted to go home. It was getting dark. It was getting cold. They're just so amazed with everything. You could give them the simplest things and they would be so thankful. Give them a cookie. They'll be thanking you so much. Give them something, a sticker on their finger, and they'll be so amazed with that. They will carry that going home. They're so in amaze and awe and wonder, and I think we've lost that. We lost that wonder. We lost just saying, wow. And I think the reason why is because as we get older, we get more position-minded. You look more about your position, right? As you get older. The reason why you put your kids to school is that they could get a position. We're teaching them early on, you need to get a position. Like you would tell your baby that doesn't even know words, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. You already put a position in their mind. So the older we get, the more position-minded we are. We talk about, status and prestige. And the reason why is because if we have good status, that determines our way of living, our living circumstances. If we have good prestige, that determines if we get a job, a good paying job. The older you get, the more financially focused you are on your position. You get focused financially on that position you're at. And the more older you get, the more you focus on the position that you're happy and content. And this is what I love about Jesus. This is what's so amazing. He brought a child. He brought a child in there when the disciples were focused on position. Can I tell you something? Children back then had no position and had no status. It says this in verse 3. It says this, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children. Unless you change and become like little children. See, this is what Jesus is saying. The position that you're striving for, the position that you're focused on, the position that you're worried about, that doesn't matter. You know what matters? It's your privilege. Your position doesn't matter. What matters is your privilege. This is what I want you to take for this week. What's important is that you become a child of God. That's the most important thing, that you are a child of God. Being a child of God, no position can compare. That privilege of being His child, no position can take. So whatever position you find yourself today, whether getting a better position, striding for your goals, striding for your dreams, striding for your hopes, or the position that's bad right now, that it's not enough, it's hard, it's difficult, I want you to understand, no position can take the privilege of being His child. No position, whatever position it is, doctor, nurse, CEO, janitor, rich, poor, plenty, little, high, low, I'd rather be His child. I am a child of God. That's what you are. You are a child of God. Did you forget that? Did you forget it? That's what matters. You're His child. I think we get so caught up in a position, we start neglecting our privileges. You're looking at position, position, position. Our position, my position. It's bad. I don't have enough. I want this. I want that. The position I don't have. But look here. The more you focus on position, the less you remember that you are a child of God. Like the more you focus that you don't have enough, and you say that repeatedly over and over and over again every single day, the less you remember that you're His child. The more you focus on saying, I'm dealing with depression, I'm dealing with these anxiety attacks, and the more you focus on it, getting more anxious, coming into those moments, the less you remember, I'm His child. And we get so desperate in changing our position because we want a better one, we want a higher one. We start identifying ourselves based on where we're at. So if you're in a good position, you identify with that. But if you're in a bad position, you identify with that. Remember I talked about this a few months ago, that positions and pride always are linking in some sort of way. What is pride? Pride always wants a higher position. It doesn't want to be under. So it says this again, verse 1, the disciple says, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? The disciples are thinking this: if I have a high position, I'll have more privileges, I'll have more opportunities, I will have more. See here, they're chasing after a position so that they can have more privileges. And we're thinking to ourselves, if we have a higher position, if we have a better position, we can have more privileges, right? If I have it up there, I can buy things without worrying. I can travel without worrying. I don't always need to feel a need. But here Jesus is clarifying. High position doesn't always guarantee privileges. You know what guarantees privileges? Being His child. Being a child of God. And you know what you have as a child of God? You have the inheritance of the kingdom of heaven. That is the greatest privilege that you could have on this earth. See, they're chasing after positions to have more privileges, but they don't realize that they are privileged just being a child of God. And that's what I want you to understand. That's your inheritance. It says in verse 4, therefore, whoever takes a lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Again, the disciples were stressing position, position, position. And Jesus is saying, not about that. It's not about being the greatest. It's about being a child, being His child. Jesus says, who is willing to take a lowly position as this child. Again, I'm going to give you context. Children had no position, had no status. They were the lowest in society. They had no voice. In fact, when they were going to eat in dinner, they had their separate table. They were not important. And whenever you see in the Bible the feeding of the 5,000, it only mentions the men. The Bible didn't mention the women and the children. Even back then, culturally back then, no one found kids cute. The only people who found kids cute are the parents. No one found kids cute, not like today, when you have a baby. Sometimes you can't even find your baby because everyone is tossing the baby like hot potatoes. They're kissing the baby, doing this and that. They're so captivated by the baby. But back then, it wasn't like that. They found kids annoying. They found them a bother. And not only that, children back then and even now, they don't have a will for themselves. They're always in submission to their parents. And this is the position Jesus is telling us to take. This is the position. Are you willing to take a lowly position? Are you willing to take a lowly position? In this coming year, are you willing to take a lowly position? Be careful how you say that, because God may answer your prayers. For many of us, we don't want that. We cancel it. I cancel it in your name. Devil, you are under my feet. I cancel that in your name. I claim that I am the head and not the tail. I claim for better, for more, for greener pastures. We want a higher position. But look here, that's what you want. That's what you want. Many times the reason why we want a higher position is because of us. See, you hear this said a lot in church. Childlike faith. Everyone say childlike. Childlike faith. What does childlike faith mean? Well, childlike faith doesn't mean childish faith. I'll give you an example for this. If kids don't get what they want, what does the kids do? They go on tantrums. They start crying. They start going crazy. Even the smallest inconveniences to them, they would go panic. They would complain. That's childish. And for some of you, that's you. That's you. Don't look at someone next to you. Just look at them. Some of you, that's you. When things don't go your way, you go crazy. When things don't go your way, you say, God's not good. You start complaining. You start doubting. You start leaving. You just leave without question. For some of you, you're pasaway. What's the English of that? Naughty? Stubborn. You're pasaway. Turn to someone next to you. Do they look pasaway? Pasaway. Am I saying that right? Pasaway. When things don't go your way, and you look at this. Your wonder is this. You wonder why God didn't do this. You wonder why God hasn't moved. You wonder why God hasn't answered your prayer. And that's what your wonder has become. Why God? See, childlike faith is this. It's to always be in submission to His will. It's always saying, your will be done, your kingdom come. Not my will, but yours. Have you stopped asking this? Not my will, but yours. The reason why we stop being in wonder of God and being in awe of God is because we stop asking for His will and we focus on ours. The more you look on yourself, the narrower the view on what is to come. But the more you look into God's will, the more you look to God, the more you will see the mysteries and the wonders of His works. You know your will? It's just a straight line. It's a dot. But God's will, you can't even comprehend. That's why we stop being in awe of God. It's because we rejected His will. Because His will sometimes doesn't make any sense. Or we don't like the results. We don't like losing our jobs. We don't like that our marriage is in a rough spot. We don't like the family trouble. So we don't submit to His will. But this is what the Bible says. He will make all things work together for the good. And if you submit to His will, it will be good. If you submit to His will, it will be good. I've heard this said before. If it's not good now, then God is not done yet. Because God is always good. He'll make all things work together for the good. See, this is what it means. This is what it means to have childlike faith. Again, I think the reason why we stop coming to God in wonder and awe of Him is because we're always wondering where we will be. What position I'm going to take. What position I'm going to have. Instead, do this. Instead of wondering where you'll be, wonder who God is. Position is limited. It's finite. But God is infinite and beyond limits. This is what it means to be a child of God. We don't chase after a position. We chase after God. His will be done. His kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. It is a privilege being called sons and daughters of God. That is the greatest thing you can have. So again in verse 4, therefore whoever takes a lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Being a child of God is the greatest position. This is our posture moving into this coming year, 2023. We're going to say, let your will be done, and we will be amazed on what is to come. I wonder what God is going to do next. I wonder what He's going to do next. So it's not about a position. It's not about that. 2023 is not about a position. It's about, God, whatever you have in store, I am ready. I'm ready. Your will be done. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And as long as I am a child of God, it will be good. Stand to your feet.